All right, let's get to the absolute beatdown that we just watched in the later game. This was a reminder to me, plain and simple, of who the Eagles are.
Yeah.
And there was a couple stumbles, couple fits and starts near the end of the season. I think it's been a while since we saw this version of the Philadelphia Eagles, but this was a statement about the team that they have been all year, and just a little poke and a little nudge to everybody who might have questioned whether they could hit that level again.
Yeah, it was a reminder. I was like, oh yeah, remember we did our all pro teams and we just kept listing off Eagles and other people did too. And you're like, you just forget. You forget sometimes. You're like, oh yeah, this is the difference between what the talent level of an entire team.
The talent discrepancy was insane. The
speed
entire
difference.
game.
Oh, Giants offense versus Eagles defense. It was just it felt bad. It like, especially how the Eagles ran the ball too, as we're going on the other side of the ball. But usually when you can run the ball like that, it's just because you're dominant. That's why you usually see it in college or high school, and you don't see too many of those games in the NFL where you have that big of a discrepancy. It's a league of parity, much less in the playoffs, and it wasn't the Kaepernick versus the Packers where the Packers looked like they never defended a zone. Well, they never had a zone read before. It was just straight zone runs and split zone and just right down their throat, all from the gun. And you remember that's like, oh yeah, they're really good. This is why they won. They're the number one seed. That's why they walked away with it. And this is why they, just the whole year they were sitting at the top of the NFC. And then that the Giants were the team that was like, oh, they're a fun story. And yeah, that's, again, it's a reminder. It's the playoffs. This is when that really stands out.
The two guys, I mean, obviously so many guys, but Hassan Reddick on the first drive.
Oh my God.
Immediately, it's like, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be a problem. And it was a problem. And his second sack, they line up in a 5-0 look on third down. So everyone is covered. They run a big twist with him coming all the way around. The center is engaged with Sue, so he's late coming off of it. He drives Feliciano right back into Daniel Jones's lap. It's, again, a combination of we have better players and we're deploying them well. James Bradbury, multiple big plays. He had the pick, obviously, but the play he had at the sticks on Isaiah Hodgins that he came down and just made a stick to make him the ball. He had a couple of those in this game. Goddard, who didn't play in week 14, makes a one-handed catch, somehow stays on his feet, and then runs a touchdown on the play. So it's the talent discrepancy that you saw throughout the game, and not surprising. And we'll get into that as we talk about the Giants, but this is a team in the Eagles that has the best roster in football, top to bottom, the best roster in the league. This is a Giants team that wasn't trying to win games as they built their roster coming into the year. Important to remember.
Usually this just happens in week 15, not divisional round of the playoffs. That's the big difference. No one was more upset about the Giants' performance today than Vikings fans, according at least to Twitter. God. Oh my God. They were letting it out. We made this offense look like, like the 98 Vikings. Like they couldn't get over it. But yeah, I want to talk about the Bradbury interception because it was just perfect. Remember he had the interception against Trevor Lawrence in their matchup where it was just, he read it perfectly and showed like what they're trying to do was like a switch vertical concept against pressure. That interception, I tweeted out the first drive, the Giants motioned Barkley to empty like 3 or 4 times. They love doing this. They just put him on a speed motion. It makes it, especially a defense like the Eagles and a lot of too high shells, will kind of widen out and you kind of get some nice kind of horizontal stretch at the snap of the ball. Did it kind of a few times. They've done it all season. Did a bunch last week. Second drive, they do it. And Brett, when you do that, you're in empty. Typically when you're in empty, you're in 5-man protection. When you're in 5-man protection, the ball's going to come out quick, especially when you have Daniel Jones, who is, it's the opposite. It's on the rails. It's not choose your adventure. It's on the rails. He's going to do it's point A. That is where I'm going with the ball. So it's a lot of slants. It's a lot of hitches. Bradbury's very smart. He was like, oh, there's Barkley in motion. So he just guns down and makes that great play. But that goes to show
CJ Gardner-Johnson blitzed on that play too. So I think he was probably looking at the pressure. He's like, I'm throwing it right where that pressure is coming from.
That's all this. When I say replace the pressure, that's like the classic quarterback. They're replacing the replacement. Like that's exactly what they did. And it was like just going that, like we watch this stuff and we notice it, but now imagine these guys with being a top tier athletes, they notice this shit too. And the coaches do too. That's just, I thought that was just a great awareness either from the coaching staff or the Eagles players, which I'm sure it's a combination of both, but that's just a discrepancy there. It's like, the Giants can't hit the easy buttons. And that's when we talk about when you take away easy buttons and they actually have to play the hard football, which is dropping back, which is like running hard run plays. that's why there's the quarterback tiers. And when we talk about them in offensive tiers, when play catcher tiers, that's why there are tiers that exist, because it's hard to sustain when there's a talent discrepancy like this.
And we talked about this coming into the game. All of the ways that you can just go after the Vikings, play action, big crossing routes, just we're going to bank on you to fuck up.
Yep.
That you can't do that against the Eagles. You couldn't do that against the Eagles all year. You have to have a game plan where, like, all right, we're going to put CD in the slot, and we know they're playing zone on this, and like we have a talent advantage here, so we can do it. The Giants have no talent advantages.
They don't have
so all the smoke and mirrors when you're playing against a team that it's hard to beat with smoke and mirrors. That's ultimately what happened tonight. And I think the other kind of reminder of this is what the Eagles are is this idea that we've harped on all season. They are going to find what is easiest, and they are going to hammer it until you can stop it. And that's exactly what happened today. All right. So they had 41 carries for 227 yards at one point. This was before the long Boston Scott or the long Kenneth Gainwell run. That's when I had the numbers. Okay.
So you're actually making it easier.
Yes.
Making it lower.
So I think they finished with like 267 rushing yards.
Yeah.
They averaged at one point, like deep into the fourth quarter, 3.16 yards before contact per rush. Okay. They had a 53% success rate running the football. And the other number, I don't know why I can't find them, but the throwing the ball stats were wild to me. So in the first half of this game, okay, Jalen Hurts' time to throw was 2.3 seconds. Okay. He was averaging 4 air yards per attempt, and that was with the shot to Devontae Smith on the first drive. In the first half of this game, 5 of Jalen Hurts' 17 attempts were deeper than 5 yards. He had 2 completions that were more than 5 yards in the air in the first half. They were using play action 47% of the time. So
that's what it was.
Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni and the rest of the Eagles offensive staff looked at the Giants defense and said, we think you're going to blitz a lot, and we think your linebackers cannot play.
Yep.
And that was the game plan, and they absolutely slaughtered them with it. It was no more complicated than that. And that's what I love about this team, where it's like, you do not have NFL linebackers. Jared Davis, who started for the Giants today, was not in the starting lineup until week 18. That was the state of the position for the Giants, because that's who they are. And at certain positions, that's who this Giants team is. Yeah. So the Eagles offensive staff said, okay.
Yep.
And the Giants linebackers were on a different planet.
Yeah.
This entire game. It was rough to watch.
Yep. That's those split zone plays. And what split zone is the tight end is crossing the formation and kicking out the opposing D end. I've talked about this, but it affects linebackers' eyes because they might have bump off rules and naked. They might have they have to communicate because they have to stay gap sound. The gap is changing on them. And if you have bad linebackers, that is like the classic way to affect them. And they just ran that. The flats to Dallas Goedert, including that touchdown. It's man coverage, and that's their classic man coverage beater because it's just in and out, like basically a pick play with an RPO. And that's why you saw a bunch of those today. So it's just, those are simple answers. That's why you saw all the short passes, because those are just like you said, straight line. They don't overthink it. But one of my favorite things the Eagles offense does when they cross the 50, if they're really moving the ball on a defense, which they were tonight, is they'll just repeat the same run play like 3 or 4 times in a row. They've done that 5 times at least I've seen this year against 5 different opponents, where it's just they would just call the same play. They did that tonight. They crossed the 50. They're like, oh, you're not stopping us. Repeat. Don't overthink it. We have an advantage. Don't get cute. We'll just win this game going away. Let's put the JV team in. Like that. That's kind of what it felt like this game. It was like, just take care of business, straight line it, and let's go. I mean, they had 37 shotgun runs. 20 of them were successful. 6 explosive runs. Like that's insane. Like that in a playoff game, that you got 20 successful runs just out of the shotgun. I mean, you're going to win every game like that, just like this, just blow, like looked like Secretariat at the Preakness. Like that's what this game kind of felt like.